You're listening to So You Want to Start a Business podcast, and I am your host, Ingrid Thompson. And today we have another wonderful businesswoman on the show. Stacey Hylen is my guest today, and she started her first business when she was in third grade. Yep, third grade, and it was a real business. And then an even more successful business when she was 11 years old, and she tells us about them in this podcast. She describes herself as a natural optimiser, and all the way through our conversation, you can hear the ways that she optimizes her business and the businesses of the people she works with. No matter what business you are in, I honestly believe Stacey has a message for you in this conversation. Hello, and thank you for being here, for spending your precious time with me and my guests. Business, and especially the financial side, has become overcomplicated, and my aim is to simplify, and today I have Stacey helping make things easier to understand. My business is healthynumbers.com.au, and I'm on a mission to help every business owner understand how money works in their business, because I believe everyone deserves to be financially savvy when it comes to understanding how money works in business. In this podcast, we meet business owners and we delve into their wisdom and their lessons learned to offer easy business life hacks and debunk some of those common business myths. I'm keen to give you tangible, tactical tools, tips, and tricks to revolutionize how you build and grow your business. My mission is to help small business owners find lasting financial safety. That's why I wrote the book, So You Want to Start a Business. This book helps you understand business fundamentals and find your level of financial safety in your business. This book is the only advertising on the podcast, and my guest gets to talk about something for themselves. Pretty much every day, someone somewhere in the world is buying a copy of this book. So head to wherever you buy your books online. Okay, enough from me. Now here is Stacey Hylen. Hello, and here we are today with Stacey Hylen. Hello, Stacey. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Ingrid. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. Oh, me too. You are amazing, and I'm just so excited about this conversation. Stacey, let's start. Where in the world are you, please?
Well, right now I'm in New Hampshire in the United States on Lake Winnipesaukee. We just built our dream lake house here. And then the other half of the year, I'm usually in Montreal in Canada.
Oh, how lovely. So this gorgeous combination of being near the lake and being in Canada as well. So are you at the lake when it's too cold in Canada to be in Canada?
No, I'm one of these crazy people that has two houses in two cold places.
Oh, right. As you do. As you do. All right. Stacey, tell us about your business. How do you describe the business that you're in?
So I'm a business coach. I do business coaching. I do marketing strategy, and I'm also an author and a speaker. And I work with business owners who want to add a zero to their business without the hustle, without the burnout, and, being able to spend the time that they want with the people that they love and doing the things that they love.
And Stacey, who doesn't want to add a zero to their business? And what that means is, 10 times more than what you're currently getting. So when did you get started in your business?
Well, it's funny because I've been in business since I was really young. I started selling in third grade, and I would buy things wholesale and sell them at retail to my neighbors in order to fund my travels when I was young. I started selling B2B when I was in fifth grade, which is like 11 years old. And I moved into a sales career, and I was doing straight commission sales. And in my last sales job, I was really doing a lot of consultative selling. So asking people lots of questions and finding out what their challenges were and what their goals were. And I started really helping them because I just am this natural optimizer. I see something, I'm like, well, why don't you do this? It would help you make more money. It would help you bring in more clients. My client, she increased her sales 200% in 1 year. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And it's so much fun. Now, that was the good part. And then on the other side, at the same time, my dad was diagnosed with cancer and passed away very quickly. So it was like a month and a half. It was like, phew. And he was only 56. So it really made me have a real spiritual awakening at that point of like, what the heck do I want to do with my life? And the reason why is, the gift of my dad was that he was always my motivator, my believer, my coach, but he didn't ever live his life. Like, he wanted to go to Australia. He never went to Australia. He never went to Europe. He didn't do any of the things he wanted to do. And so that's where the without the hustle part of my business came from, was because I knew I wanted to help people optimize their business and grow their businesses, but I didn't want to do it at the expense that when you get there on your deathbed, that you're like, man, I just gave up everything for the almighty dollar.
Yeah. Isn't that? I'm so sorry about your dad. It's
that's
very fast, and that's very, very young. But it's a great, he's helped you be who you are today, as that's what parents do, isn't it? So it sounds like the reason that you wanted to start the business was to be able to have this ability of optimizing other people's businesses and helping them, and also give yourself this ability to not have the hustle, not to have to spend your entire life doing the work, so that you could enjoy it as well. What did you want from the business from day one? Because I know you've got a really interesting background in terms of all the things you've done. I actually just want to know, what were you selling as an 11-year-old B2B? Sorry, let's just wind that back a bit. What were you selling?
When I started in 3rd grade, I sold stationery. So I would buy the stationery wholesale and sell it for retail, and, wrapping paper and that sort of thing. And in 5th grade, I was selling poinsettias. So I bought all the poinsettias from a greenhouse nearby. The guy probably thought I was crazy, because he's like, how is she going to sell these? And I sold so many of them, like hundreds and hundreds of them, because I would sell them to restaurants and businesses. And not just one poinsettia, like literally, like, oh, you want 12 poinsettias? Like, here you go. And I still have a picture of me with the, my clipboard and my first business check I got. So it was really fun.
And poinsettias are one of those plants, when they're in a pot, they are showy, aren't they? They look good. They bring that red life. And clearly you like red, because you're wearing red again today.
Yes.
So it really does. I love poinsettias as well. They're really good. Okay, thank you. So what did you want from your business? You're going to help clients. You're going to, add a zero, optimize. What does it mean to you to have a business?
Well, for me, one of my biggest values is freedom. And so I wanted freedom, but I also wanted family. So one of the things I knew even before I had kids was that I wanted to be able to be there when my kids got off the school bus. I wanted to be able to be there, like school field trips, all of those things. And, I've been really lucky, because since I've created it this way, like lifestyle design with the business design, like my oldest daughter, she's a national level gymnast. I was able to travel with her, and like she literally would go to training camps with the Olympic coaches, and I would sell a VIP day to a business in the area and go into a VIP day while she was training. So I really wanted to integrate it in a way that it worked for business and life.
That is a beautiful example of natural optimization. Okay, you are very, very good at that, aren't you? So one of my favorite questions is to find out from the guest when the business felt real, because different things trigger the reality for people. When did your business actually feel real? It's like, okay, pinch me, this is real.
Pinch me, this is real. That's a really good question, because I think, sometimes it still feels surreal, even 20 years in business. Like, it feels really like, oh my gosh, like I'm getting paid to help people do, how they say, your success if you're getting paid to do what you love and you would do it for free. That's really like how it feels. And I think when I got like an internet payment, like that I think that was like really like, oh, this is really cool that somebody paid me like online, versus like when I went from checks to doing like the online stuff, that felt really cool.
Yeah, everybody has a different answer to that, but I really resonate with what you say there about it feeling sort of surreal. Do I actually get paid to do this? It's quite amazing. Early days, Stacey, how did you find customers? Because yours is a service business, and you had been in the sales environment, so you knew how to sell and you knew the principles of selling. How did you find customers in the early days?
You know what? It was really challenging in the early days because when I started coaching 20 years ago, people didn't know what coaching was. And not only did they not know what coaching was, but I was in Canada. I was American, so I was an immigrant. And I was in French, like in Quebec, where the majority, like the town I live in Quebec, is 99.8% French. And so it was very challenging. A lot of the normal things would not work there. So I did networking. I did BNI groups. In fact, I remember having my daughter, who's now 18. I would literally get up at 4 a.m., nurse my daughter, get in the car, go to the networking meeting that started at 7 a.m. My husband would meet me in the parking lot of the Tim Hortons restaurant, and he would give me the baby, and then I would go home. So, I mean, it was a lot of hard work back then. And then, then it started working into referrals and online marketing more.
Yeah, because
it was in early days.
Yeah, and 20 years ago, we didn't have the online presence now. People didn't just jump on Google and search for things, and didn't jump into LinkedIn and Facebook groups and say, can you recommend somebody for this, or, groups for that. So it really was much more physical back in those days, wasn't it?
Yeah. And also the fact that, like, I remember, creating a website was ridiculously expensive back then. It wasn't like you could do a WordPress and change it yourself, or ClickFunnels or any of that. It was literally like, it was almost like cast in stone when you created a website. So you better make sure it was right the first time.
And thousands of dollars. It really was. It truly was. And yet now, as you said, WordPress and Square, you can virtually have a website up in an hour or two. It's just phenomenal, isn't it? So how do you get new customers now? So it's changed now. So you obviously come on podcasts, because this is one of the ways of sharing your message. What do you think is the way that works today we're currently in 2021. Let me just get my time warp on. What's working for finding customers now? You mentioned referrals. What's working now?
Until COVID hit, I was doing a lot of speaking on stages. And I really loved that, and find that, like, a lot of people don't like doing that, but for me, it's better than going to the dentist. Put me in front of 1,000 people, in my element. But, speaking is always good, because it puts you in a position of authority, because people are like, oh, what she said was really good, or I liked her energy, or whatever. So I find the more that you can do things that people can feel your energy and also see what you're sharing. So I do a lot of video on Facebook and on LinkedIn and Instagram, because I find that, especially with coaching, people need to resonate with you and really have a good fit.
Yeah, that's so true. It is. All right, let's start to talk about money. And I know we've been going for a few minutes here and we haven't talked about money yet, but let's dive into money. At the beginning, so you had this job where you were working and you were selling on commission, and then you kind of morph into the business. How did you know it was going to be viable for you to have a business and still, did you transition slowly or part-time or side hustle? How did you know that there was going to be viable for you to have a business instead of a paycheck?
Well, I didn't really have a paycheck in sales, because I had to sell it. And when I started in sales, I literally did waitressing 3 nights a week, because I knew I was going to be able to make more money. So it was actually kind of neat, because when I transitioned from sales into my coaching, I had residuals from my sales business that I got paid on, and they kind of trickled down to nothing, but it at least gave me a little runway, because I was also I moved to a new country and had a baby. So it wasn't like the easiest time. My husband and I used to joke, there's a thing in French called a casse-croûte, and it's like a little hot dog stand. And so he used to joke, and we live in this little village outside of Montreal, and he would say, well, if it doesn't work, you could always go work at Casso du Fort, which is the little hot dog stand. And I'm like, there's no way. But that used to be our joke. So it really was not like is this going to work? It was like, this is going to work. This is what I'm meant to do. And I'm just going to keep figuring it out until it's working.
It's a pretty good motivation not to go work in a hot dog stand.
I know. I mean, it was just like a joke, and we still joke about it today.
But it's funny how even something that is a joke can really be, it's that, it's your anchor to what's not going to be. It's very, very powerful, isn't it? All right.
And I knew I could go get a job as a sales manager for 6 figures anytime I wanted, but I didn't want that.
You didn't want that because now you'd really seen what happens when you are only working, and you don't want to be like that. Yeah. So how do you get pricing right? Because this is one of the questions that comes up over and over for people who are coaches, people who are providing a service, whether it's a physical service like a hairdresser or a physiotherapist, or whether it's an accountant or a coach or a psychologist, anywhere where it's this exchange of energy and time and knowledge and expertise. How do we get the pricing right, Stacey?
That's a really good question. I just did a class on this. I actually have a free class called Raise Your Rates Masterclass. And the reason why I created that class is because it's one of the tenets to adding a zero in your business is to be able to raise your rates. And I find that, like for myself, when I started, I just charged what all the other coaches that I saw in coach training were charging. And I did that for a long time. And I feel like I was too expensive for the people that couldn't afford me. And I was not expensive enough for the people that wanted the best. And so it was like a messy middle. And I remember when I raised my rates and I went from $350 a month to $500 a month. And I thought this was like a ginormous jump, right? The very first guy that I talked to, and I quoted my new rate, he said, "Oh, I thought it was going to be way more than that." I was like, "Are you kidding me? I could have charged even more than that." So I find that like there's this pricing barrier, and the pricing barrier isn't so much between you and the customer or the client. The pricing barrier is usually between your two ears. And so that's where, it's looking at, you can raise your prices more often than you think, and you can raise it more than you think.
Yeah, it's so true. We've had a couple of guests on who've said that really it's absolutely a mindset thing, is about setting pricing. So let's just, you just referred there to, is that a masterclass on demand that you said you have a Raise Your Rates masterclass?
I'm going to be running it on demand from now. I did a live one and we're going to be relaunching it. So yeah, you can go to raiseyourratesmasterclass.com and sign up and get the notice for when the next one is coming out.
There we go. So anyone who is wanting to get some of Stacey's help with raising your rates, I reckon raiseyourratesmasterclass.com is where to head for that. But Stacey, while we're talking about money, you also have a book coming out. So tell us about the book that's being launched around about the time this podcast goes live.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's called Hidden Profits: More Clients and Cash. And it came from when I was working with Tony Robbins. I was vice president of consulting for his Business Mastery brand, along with Chet Holmes. And one of the things that came out of that was back during the recession, 2008, 2009. And one of the things that happened at that very first Business Mastery is a gentleman stood up and he said, "I've tried everything, nothing works." And Tony started to coach him, and as it turns out, the guy said he did like 2 or 3 things. He tried it like 2 or 3 times, and then he stopped. And Tony said, "Okay, like you said, you tried everything and nothing worked, but you've really only tried 2 or 3 things, 2 or 3 times. What happened?" And the guy said, "Well, I didn't have enough money. I didn't have enough staff. I didn't have enough time." And he was lacking on resources. And so what Tony asked him, he said, "Have you ever seen somebody that's had less resources than you that's more successful than you?" And in the North American, success story, that they call the American dream, you see these immigrants that come to the United States with like $300, or they don't speak English, they don't have a college education, they don't have any of the resources that most of us have, that are complaining that we don't have resources. So Tony said, so it's not a matter of resources, it's a matter of resourcefulness. And so that was like just that session right there, just pinged something in my head of how can I become more resourceful for my clients? And that's how the Hidden Profits was born, because what I looked at is what can you do in your business? It's any size business, any kind of business that's free or low cost, that's going to give you a quick boost in cash flow. And that's what all these hidden profits are, so that you can start implementing them immediately and they all work very quickly.
Yeah. Wow. I just love that example. It's so true. When you think about people who come, and we have them coming to Australia as well, who come with nothing. And maybe they've come through 2 or 3 detention camps to get here, and they literally turn up, and then they go on to really use their resourcefulness to be able to achieve things. And yeah, it's such a beautiful example. So the book is called Hidden Profits, More Clients, More Cash. And it's available, I guess, where all books are. All right. So
yes.
We have no advertising on this show. We're me and my book and my guest and whatever they want to advertise. So that's it for the advertising. Nice. Yeah. None of that pesky advertising in the middle of the podcast.
That's great.
So, Stacey, you've had some amazing experience, and I love how you just sort of brushed over the fact that you've been working with Tony Robbins and that you were, such a significant role in that business. In your business, if you could take a magic wand and go back, and I know we learn the lessons and we don't, we move on and all of that, and we don't wish we could do things differently. But if there was something that you would like to have done differently that would be helpful to the listener, what's something that you would have, that you learnt the biggest lesson from, perhaps, is a better way to ask the question.
I think it's funny because I think it's a lesson I learned from my daughter, who's the one that I mentioned, a national level gymnast, is that when she was a young girl and they brought in a new coach from Romania, and this woman said, I think your daughter can go national. And we were like, what? And we didn't see it. And we said, well, why do you think that? And because she wasn't the best gymnast at the gym. And and the lady said, it's because your daughter falls off the balance beam and she pops right back on. She falls, she pops right back on. She falls, she pops right back on. And so for her, she was able to reach the national level in gymnastics because she got back up faster. And I think that's the biggest thing in business is, like, Winston Churchill says, success is moving from failure to failure without the loss of enthusiasm. I think entrepreneurship is moving from failure to failure without the loss of enthusiasm. So I think a lot of times when I had things that didn't work, I would get really mad about it or sad about it or something. And I would just, like, now I've gotten in the habit, I have a little Post-it on my wall that's like, get back up faster, get back up faster. Because the longer you stay down, you have to be like that whack-a-mole game that they have at the arcade, that they just keep popping back up. If you're an entrepreneur, that's what you got to do.
I love that. I really love that. And that just leads me into the next question. You've got a poster that says, get back up faster. But how, because there's a question that says, it's tough, it's difficult sometimes in business. And it truly is. Like, we do get knocked down, we do fail, we do have really days that aren't what we expect them to be. How do we pick ourselves up, and how do we get up faster? What have you found works for you, and what have you seen works for some of your clients?
Yeah, I think it's important to have somebody that you can share this with. Whether it's your spouse or significant other or partner, have a business coach. My clients have access to me through Voxer, which is like a walkie-talkie app through the phone.
I love Voxer. So it's like so fun.
It's so good. And so I'll say something like, you just let it out. And then I think, so part of it is letting that, disappointment, anger, whatever there is there. I mean, I literally remember failing on webinars. And I was in Russell Brunson's mastermind. He's owner of $100 million software company now, ClickFunnels. And I was literally crying to him on Voxer. Like, I did this. And he was like, you did this right. You did this right. Like, just try it again.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, having somebody that you can talk to. And then I like to have a win folder. Like, when a client gives you a testimonial, when you have something that you did that you're like, wow, I did that. Like, go back and look at that win folder to help you get your energy up.
Yeah.
And then I do also like having some books that like the War of Art by Stephen Pressfield about resistance, that you can just open it to any page and it kind of gives you a little kick in the butt to go forward.
Yeah, I've got a few of those myself. I love those. That's really good. So that win folder is set, and we've had other guests say the same. And I work with my clients to say, when you get anything good, or even just go read your Google reviews, just go read your Facebook reviews, and wherever there is some positivity, and because that connects you back to the difference that you've had to your clients and reminds us why we're doing it. I love that. So you touched on there the importance of a coach, that a coach is the person who says to you, come on, you've tried it, let's just try it one more time. What else do you feel has the coaching, mentoring really helped you in your business?
I think I had a coach a long time ago that said, I see the potential in you when you can't see it for yourself.
Yeah.
And that really struck me, is like, that's a fantastic role for a coach, is that, and when you hire a coach, you want a coach that sees that for you. Because I'll say to my clients, like, you can't see this right now, but here's what I see as the next steps for you. Yeah. Like, that they can't even imagine at this point, but I can see the bigger picture for them. So I think having somebody that believes in you and in your possibility and your potential is really important.
Yeah, a bit like your daughter's Romanian coach when the new coach came along. And I think that goes to another interesting point about coaches, is that sometimes a new coach, like you said, that was a new coach for your daughter, and she could see that. I'm of the belief that maybe the same coach is not the right coach forever, that we need a coach for this, we need a different coach for the different aspects. What's your position on the role of different coaches?
Well, I think that's interesting, because I have had clients that have been with me now for 13 years. So I think there's pluses and minuses. So I think what the good thing is, if you stick with a coach, what happens is you don't have to re-educate that coach. You don't get to hide out with just showing them your happy, shiny self. And they know what to look for. So they can see, like, oh, they do this when they have a problem. They do that. And also, like, my clients, I know their message. I know how to help them with their marketing. I know how to help them with their sales. But it's not to say that they, like, for example, myself, I might have different coaches on some things, but I have coaches that are like mindset coaches and other coaches that I bring in also. So I think, having coaches in different areas is important.
Yeah. And I love what you said there about having clients that you've had for a long time, because there's that touchstone. I've got clients that I've been working for a long time, and they go away and they get some help on marketing, because that's not something that I'm especially good at. They go and get some help on marketing, and they come back and say, so Ingrid, this is what we've been working on. Can we have another couple of sessions? And then and they roll off and get some help on, something else that is not my skill set. And then they roll back. So there's this sort of, having different people to help with different aspects of it, and then the mindset, which of course is so important. Stacey, I get the impression you and I could talk about coaching and clients all day long. So one more question,
for sure.
The wrap-up question: how do you get feedback? Who gives you feedback?
Oh, it's so funny, because I think, my kids are really funny, because they've incorporated so much of the things that I have learned and I teach, that they're now like mirrors for me, which can sometimes be rather annoying. They'll be like, Mom, change your attitude. Mom, like, snap, like they're very funny that way. And even like my husband, like, we'll talk things out, because he's a sales manager for a big, huge global company. But then I have my coaches that like, I like the people in my family, but there's some boundaries there, because with a coach, you can just like say anything, right? And like, you don't have to worry about impressing them. You don't have to worry about if they're still going to think good about you. It's like they don't have any conflicting, things that are getting in the way of, like, if my husband doesn't really want me to go to Australia next year for 3 months, like he would be like, oh, maybe that's not a good opportunity. Whereas a coach would help you do it from a neutral standpoint.
That's Stacey, come to Australia for 3 months next year. If you're allowed to travel, we would love to have you. I can tell you.
Yeah, my daughter's homeschooling now, so I'm like,
exactly. You can be homeschooling anywhere. All right.
Open that border.
Yeah, we're not quite ready for that yet, but we will be soon. I know we will. So as we bring this to a close, the people listening are either in business in the early stages or interested in business or thinking about getting started. Is there anything you would like to add as we bring this to a close?
Well, what I would tell them is stop looking for the magic bullet for I see, since, being in business now for over 20 years, is that there's always going to be a new magic bullet. So it could be, it's TikTok, it's Snapchat, it's, back in the day it was MySpace, right? And so what happens is everybody gets in on this magic bullet thinking it is the thing to, build. And really what you need to do is you need to look at optimizing what you have, creating this whole marketing and sales process that's bringing people back to you, bringing people back to your real estate of getting their email addresses, getting their text messaging, get ways that you actually own the contact data so you can communicate with your clients on a regular basis.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. And even just this year, we've seen some other thing come in. I don't know I can't even remember what it was called now. It was everybody was doing it. It was some kind of room chat buzz thing. Yeah, see, we don't even remember what it's called.
I can't. And my friends are on it all the time. And I'm like, I just can't because it's also this sort of thing is you're doing all of these rooms in there. And the data is gone forever. There's no way to capture data, right? There was no evergreenness of the platform, right? Yeah. So Clubhouse, it's called Clubhouse.
There we go.
What happened was they've just started to integrate some way to capture data, but it's not like a podcast that you could listen to this podcast in the year 2030.
Yeah.
And this data from today is you'll be laughing about us opening the borders or whatever. But other than that, this data that we've created right here is going to be good in 2030.
It sure
right?
Is. It sure is.
But the thing in Clubhouse is it just disappears into the ethers and you've just spent an hour or 5 hours and that time is gone.
And that time is gone. And, the truth is because of how we remember things, even if somebody feels like they're going to remember every word when they're in it, it's gone. Whereas, your masterclass for Raise Your Rates, you can record that and it's there forever and your content is there and your clients can come back to it again and again. And if somebody's listening to the podcast and they think, I really like what she said about, get back up faster, I'm going to go back and listen to that part again. The content's here and it lives. I love that so much. Stop looking for the new magic bullet there. Just get on with your work.
Yes.
Stacey, thank you so much for your time. It's been a terrific conversation.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Stop looking for the magic bullet, indeed. And I absolutely agree with what Stacey said. There is always going to be some new magic bullet. She suggests instead to look to optimize what you already have. And remember, she said she calls herself a natural optimiser. What's your standout from this conversation? Is it okay for me to ask you a question right now about how are you going with the money side of your business? To help you, I have created an online financial health check. It's a 15 simple yes and no questions about money in your business. If you go to healthynumbers.com.au/health check, you can find it right there. You receive a report, and when you're finished, it was completely anonymous. You can read the report on your screen. If you want to receive a copy, add your email, and you'll get a copy of your personalized report immediately. So go to healthynumbers.com.au/health check. It will help you highlight where you are strong financially and the areas where perhaps you're not so strong. And it gives suggested resources that I've created to help you. Stabilizing the financial side of business goes a long way to settling your business and giving you the confidence to continue. Please share this episode with someone you know who is running a business or thinking about getting into a business of their own. I love what Stacey was saying about pricing, that she was too expensive for some people who couldn't afford her, and then not expensive enough for the ones who wanted the best. And she described it as messy in the middle. Does that feel familiar to you? And she went on to say that the pricing barrier is usually between our ears. You might remember Gabriella Rosa saying something similar. Pricing is about self-esteem. Gabriella's episode is one of the most popular episodes in this podcast, episode 150, if you want to go back and listen to that one. The French expression she used, casse-cousse, literally translate to break crust, but it's really a snack. So the idea of ending up in a hot dog stand was enough to keep Stacey going. She shared her ideas about how to get back up faster, and it's not always as easy just to have that as a slogan. We need real and tangible tactics. Share what's happened with someone. This is what your coach is for. It certainly is one of the things that having a coach makes a difference to. Create that win folder and go back and read those wins. I know I love my win folder, and all my clients say how helpful it is to be able to go back and read their wins. When we pursue business and entrepreneurship based on core values and deepest integrity, and at the same time build a financially successful business, we live richer, fuller lives. As I always ask, what actions are you inspired to take today? Till the next time, thank you for listening.